Welcome to the Productpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Delarzak, product development and marketing coach and mom of three. Learn from and get inspired by women entrepreneurs killing it in the product space. Each episode, we will share the latest trends, proven strategies, and inside secrets of the product world, all designed to give you greater confidence to create your own success through a product venture. Let's do this. Hey guys, I want to take a quick minute to share with you about the Product Launch Lab. I created a one-of-a-kind 6-month online coaching program as well as done-for-you services that will take you from idea to launch. Through this program, we'll work together to come up with, develop, and market your product. You'll have my input, guidance, and support to rely on every step of the way. If you'd like more information, head on over to NicoleDelarzak.com and book a free strategy call to discuss your product idea. I'm so excited to welcome Robyn Graham. Robyn Graham helps businesswomen and entrepreneurs build their brands by helping them connect and grow their audiences and attract more clients using brand marketing strategies. She helps her clients find purpose and authenticity using her 6 pillars of brand strategy to create clarity and consistent messaging that connects with their ideal audience. Using her passion for and skills of photography, she helps clients through the power of visual storytelling integrated with brand strategies. She's an award-winning photographer, wife, mom to 3, woman of faith, and passionate about serving others. Robyn is also the host of the Second Phase podcast and enjoys speaking on the value of brand marketing strategy and personal branding. Welcome, Robyn.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Now, we met through a mutual coach of ours, and immediately I thought, oh, this is somebody that I really value and respect in terms of her dealing with business and building her business. So I'm thrilled to have you as a guest on the show and just chat all things brand marketing and strategy, because we both love to talk about that.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm really excited to be here too. And I felt the same way the first time I met you. I thought I could be friends with this woman. I wish she lived closer.
I know, right? And we had so many things in common. So
we do.
Yeah. So can you tell us about your background and how you got to where you are and how you started your own business?
Sure. So I was not always a photographer or a brand strategist. I went to pharmacy school, attained a doctorate degree, and I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for many years. And about 9 years ago, our family life was really getting crazy as our children were getting older. We have 3 of them, and my husband was traveling globally. And even though I was working part-time and I was freelancing, I was having to go to seminars and conferences and meet with my clients who were not necessarily in my state. And so life was getting very crazy and a little bit challenging to manage because we didn't have family support locally. Mm-hmm. And I had always done photography. It had always been a passion of mine, something I loved dearly. And so I took all the classes that I had taken and applied them to really mastering my skill set and became a professional photographer. And then to add on to that, my very first photography client was a branding photography client who I created all of her images for her CD cover, her website, things like that. And this was before branding photography was really a thing. Mm-hmm. It was, people in business would have portraits taken and they would use them for their website or their CD covers if they were artists or musicians. But personal branding was not really a thing back then. Mm. And so, but I knew I loved it. Like creating for her that day was like, it just lit me up. I knew that's what I wanted to do. So that's where I focused a lot of my energy. But unfortunately, I took every job that came my way. And, I really didn't define my niche until a few years ago. And so with that being said, as I was working as a photographer, the scientist in me, the more strategic person in me kept coming out, and I needed to fuel that side of me in addition to the creative side. And that's where I decided to marry my ability to help people brand their business in addition to capturing images for their business. And so that is how, after watching so many of my photography clients who were branding clients not have any idea how to brand themselves. They didn't know social media. They didn't know what SEO was. They didn't know how to create content that
Mm.
connected with their ideal audience. So they needed help building a brand. They needed help with a strategic blueprint, per se, as to how to build their brand so that they could get more clients. And so that's where I designed my programs, and that's what I do now.
Amazing. So, do you find that that's still the case that people these days just don't know where to start in terms of building their own brand?
I think it's somewhat generational.
Mm.
Some of the younger, like the millennials, are so on top of it. And it's because they
Mm.
grew up with
Yeah.
social media, and they've kind of had that in their back pocket. So they've watched the influencers, whereas, the 40 plus didn't really have that per se. We didn't grow up with that. We didn't grow up with influencers being visually present on our phones or our computers constantly. So there is a generational gap. And my ideal audience is women who are moving into their second phase. So you're talking anywhere from 35 to 65, women who either were in a career and something happened and now they're transitioning to something new. Maybe they decided to give up the corporate role and follow their passion, or maybe they were a stay-at-home mom and are jumping back into the workforce, but they don't want to go to a 9 to 5. They want to create something for themselves and follow their passions, a hobby, and convert that to income, something like that.
Mhm.
So my audience knows a little bit. And if they have worked with a graphic designer for logo design and things like that, they've heard the buzzwords of branding, but they really don't know about personal branding and how to create that so that they can then use it for connections and developing those emotional connections and the know, like, and trust factor so that their
Mhm.
business has a solid foundation and helps them get more clients.
Mhm. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that the younger generation has a better knowledge about how, and it just comes naturally, but how to build their own
Mhm.
personal brand. Whereas us, like I think we got email when I was like in university. So we just like have learned this at the later stages of life. So
Yes,
I think it's
yes.
a challenge for many people, and it's a great niche to be in for you because you can help so many people with this.
And, something that's kind of funny, I think, is that so many women are afraid to be in front of the camera and they're afraid to do video. And so they
Hmm.
have this overarching anxiety and stress over being in front of the camera or putting themselves out there in front of
Yeah,
their ideal audience.
right.
And the younger generations don't have that. They've grown up doing selfies. They've grown up, doing videos and different things with their friends. And so it's easier for them to put themselves out there too.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, we didn't grow up taking selfies and taking our own videos for sure.
No,
And
definitely not.
that's definitely a struggle. Like, I think for myself and for many people, it's a hump you have to get over that you got to get out there with your own face and
Hmm.
talk about your products or your brand or whatever, and stop being shy about it. And that's kind of a hard thing to get over. But like once you do, it's fine. But it takes practice, and so that becomes naturally. So yeah, it's a great insight.
Yes, yes.
And you said you have so many facets of your business. So there's photography, brand marketing, coaching, and products. Can you give us an overview of all the things that you offer?
Sure. So, really, and this is since the advent of COVID, I have shifted my business a little bit because when I couldn't photograph people, that's when I really started focusing more on the coaching side of my business. And
Mm.
I say coaching, but it's really a mentorship is what I really offer. And it's building out a strategic plan for my clients. And so that is one facet, is that opportunity where I will go in and do a complete brand audit and then give recommendations and a blueprint on how to build a brand effectively and how to make changes that are going to build that no like and trust factor, as well as build the emotional connections needed to sell, because people do not buy just products and services. People need an emotional connection, and they love personalities. And those personalities are what are going to help build that, right? And so
Right.
that's one facet. And then the photography, I do headshot and branding photography, and headshots I'll do for corporate people as well as entrepreneurs. And then branding is more for entrepreneurs. And that is capturing the true essence of the entrepreneur and helping them be the face of their brand, the face of their business, coming out from behind the business and representing themselves as the business. And those shots include anything from a headshot to, showing the behind the scenes, how they do what they do, and then perhaps even with client interaction, but really showcasing them as the brand and as the business owner. And then I have an Etsy shop, and my Etsy shop is where I have housed my fine art photography. So I have prints there, but I also have note cards and journals that I've created, as well as now, since COVID, face masks.
Oh, wow. Nice.
But, yeah. So, so all my products are there in my Etsy shop, and it's the second phase Etsy shop, and it's the second phase, all one word. So that's there. And then my podcast, which is the Second Phase podcast. So you can see
Cool.
there's a lot of continuity across the board, where I'm working with people in their second phase and helping people overcome that fear, but yet embrace life, embrace the journey, and really embrace that next phase and all of the things and opportunities that are going to come their way.
Right. I love the idea of the second phase, by the way, because I think we all have the second phase. Like I feel like it's like once you have kids, things change, and so many mothers feel that same way. And everybody I interview, it seems like, oh yeah, I have had kids and then I decided to start a business. It's always, yeah. So our listeners are product business owners, or they are aspiring to be product business owners. What are some top tips you have for creating a magnetic brand?
So the first thing that I'm always going to suggest is that even if you are a product business owner, you want your ideal audience, whoever's going to be purchasing your products, to get to know you. They want to know who's behind the business. And as you can build an emotional connection with your clients, the more likely they're going to be to purchase from you. And it doesn't matter if it's a small product or a big high dollar product. It doesn't matter. People want to, if you think of the brands like Coca-Cola, what do they have in their commercials? They have people in their commercials. And every commercial that they do, or advertisement that they do, is showing personality, and it's building an emotional connection so that you can associate with the emotions that are going through whatever that advertisement is. The same thing with Nike. They have their swish or swoosh, whatever you want to call it. You think about, that's their logo. That's how they're represented. Coke has their Coke, the Coke emblem, and that's their logo. But they're building emotional connections, and that's how they're actually selling all of those products. They have bases, they have influencers, they have athletes, they have big names that are recognizable. And that is the key. You want to be, not only have a logo or a product that is recognizable, but you want to become recognizable, memorable, and shareable. And to do that, you have to build that emotional connection.
Yeah, that is so true. You're not just selling a product, but you're selling kind of like the lifestyle or the person behind the product as well. And that's why big brands hire influencers and spokespeople, because they need that face, that representation, that visual representation of their product, and people enjoying it, and it's people aspiring to be the people using the product. So
yes. And it builds that trust factor, right?
Right.
When we see somebody that we recognize, we trust them more.
Exactly. And especially if you're a small business owner, people want to know the story behind your product, and they want to know how you make it, or how you got there, or whatever. And they will be rooting for you. They're so excited to buy the products from you, because you're not just a huge brand that is this big corporation. They can actually relate to you. So even more. Yeah.
Yeah, that relatability is key.
Yeah, exactly. So, thinking about that, how much focus should be on personal branding versus product branding? So, for example, if you had a social media feed, what percentage would be the images of your products versus yourself using the products, etc.?
So what I always recommend is that if you think about Instagram and it has the grid and there are nine, when you pull up an Instagram feed, you see nine squares
Hmm.
or nine blocks, right? So I always suggest that the person that is the business, the person that is the brand should be present in at least once in those nine squares. Because
Mm.
that way, as people are scrolling through your feed, at least they get an idea of who the person is. And the other key is that you don't just have your logo as the profile picture. You want to have, if you are especially a product entrepreneur and you're a solopreneur, you definitely want to have your profile picture as a professional headshot of you so that people can recognize you. In your bio, you want to have your headshot, your
Mm.
profile picture, and then you want to be at least once every nine squares represent yourself. And it could be you doing the work, creating the product. If you are a seamstress and you're creating something that you sew, then you would want to let people see you actually sewing and creating whatever product is that you are creating. If you're an artist, have an image of you painting, or if you're a photographer, a picture of you photographing. But whatever your end product is, have you can use that as one of those images is you doing what you're doing. You
Mm.
can have you just maybe interacting with a customer, and that customer could simply be a model. It could be someone else that works with you. It doesn't necessarily have to be, that you have to ask a client to sit in for a photo shoot, but you want to show the behind the scenes. And so every time you have an opportunity to capture you, definitely show that within those nine squares on Instagram. And on your website, you definitely want to have a photograph of you. And it could be you holding a product. It could be you creating the product. It could just be you as a headshot, but you want to have your image on the homepage as well as the about page, just so that people can see that there is a human side to whatever it is you're producing, creating, and selling.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great tip. I love that. I never thought about putting your picture in the bio of Instagram as when you're selling products. That's interesting.
Yeah, for the profile picture, right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. For
yeah,
the profile picture.
yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah,
I've never thought about that because usually you see a product or the logo or something.
yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And if you are a big corporation, like if you're a toy manufacturer and like Lego, you're going to have your logo. But if
Right,
you're an
right.
entrepreneur and you're trying to build the client base, you want people to be able to see who you are so
Mm.
that they can make that emotional connection. Like there's such a push for small business right now. And I
Yeah.
think it's a huge opportunity to represent yourself as the business, as the brand, so that people can get to know you. And then
Mhm.
they're as you become more memorable and recognizable to them, they're more likely to share you. And
Mm.
so once they trust you, they purchase your products and then they share that.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. You need to really get behind your product. And I like that addition of making sure you're part of the nine squares. So that's just an
Mhm.
easy tip to remember that that's
Yeah.
how often you need to show up. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And what brands do you think are doing it right? Like who has the right balance and who is doing a great job when it comes to product brand strategy?
I am going to give you an example that your listeners can easily look up. And this is an entrepreneur. Her name is Christy Dawn. Christy was a model and she also is a seamstress. Her mother used to make her clothes for her. And she loves vintage clothing. So
Hmm.
before she even started marketing her clothing, her dresses, they are just gorgeous dresses. I think she's in LA or Southern Cal and Southern California. And she's everything's sustainable. So if you think of, which is huge right now, right? The
Yeah,
sustainability.
exactly.
So if, she will go to like the big brands or the big fabric creators and the fabric that's left over, she will purchase that, and that's what she's creating her dresses are out
Mm.
of. So then there's no waste.
That's
So,
great.
but she took it on herself to make sure that they had great images before they even started marketing. So her website was flooded, with images of the dresses, but there are people in the dresses. They're not just dresses on a mannequin, but they're
Mm-hmm.
women out in a field, and you can feel the emotions. It's very alluring because they're sensual, you just feel this sense of peace with these dresses, and they're vintage, simple, beautiful dresses. And so I think she has done a remarkable job. And it's not like the photography is glamorous or there's a ton of props. They're natural, they're outside, and but you really connect with the emotions of
Mm-hmm.
of the dresses. Like you want to feel like the woman wearing the dress. And
Mm.
how are you going to feel that way? If you're wearing the dress. So
Right.
then you want to buy the dress.
Right.
So I think they have done, she's in business with her husband, and they have done a remarkable job. And I like to use them as an example because I think they set themselves up to really demonstrate and build that emotional connection with their product. And the fact that they are sustainable and they're vintage, it really just provides that entire scope of a brand that is well represented and well created.
Oh, cool. I have to check them out then.
Yeah.
That sounds fabulous. Yeah, sustainability is a huge trend right now, and it should be a trend because
Mm-hmm.
we really need to take care of our planet. Now, I see you recently started an Etsy shop with prints, and I just wanted to dig into that a bit. What inspired you to do this?
So as a photographer, I do a lot of fine art photography. So, that's kind of my creative outlet. And I have entered a lot of juried exhibits and over time. And when you do that, if they don't sell, you have stock. And so basically I'm like, I need to sell these prints. I can't put them all in my home. And I've had a lot of people, request that I do custom fine art photography for them, different things. And so just over the years, knowing that is a product that I can sell. I have them in stock. I can create more, but they're limited edition prints. And it's a way that people can have unique art for their home and something that is high quality. I print on museum quality paper, and if they are framed and matted, that it's professional museum quality as well. So it's just a piece of fine art that people can have in their home or their office, and it could mean something besides just picking something up at a big box store or Marshall's or
Right.
someplace like that.
Right. Amazing. That's awesome. When did you launch that?
I launched the Etsy shop. I think it was, oh my goodness, I can't remember. It was either in the late fall of last year or winter. I can't remember the exact date. I actually hired my mom to help me do it because I needed
Mm.
someone to help me load all the products
Right.
and get all the details in because I just didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's kind of my mom and I that are doing the Etsy shop, and it's been a really fun project.
Cool. Yeah, that's amazing. And so how have you grown your audience within Etsy? And how did you actually grow that business?
So mostly social media,
Mm.
just, sharing that it's out there. And one thing that I did is I started using my products. So I would give journals as a gift. I would give a package of note cards as a gift.
Mm.
And so people would see that, and then they would get that idea for teacher's gift, Mother's Day gift, this, that, or the other, or just purchase the cards for themselves to send to their friends or loved ones. And so, my logo's on the back, and it's just kind of spread that way. And then social media posts, I'll share product updates and things like that. The shop is also is linked to my website. So I've got the SEO set up to drive traffic,
Mm-hmm.
which helps tremendously. And then I'm also using my podcast to do ads. So I've created an ad for the Etsy shop, and that's on my podcast.
Nice. I love it. I love how you took something that was already that's created and it's just part of your business and use that as a product to sell. And I don't know if people actually think of that, that they've actually already got a product and they can they can sell it by themselves through Etsy or whatever they choose.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
And
cool.
Etsy's relatively inexpensive to
Mm-hmm.
use, and to have as a platform. If someone didn't want to use Etsy, they could obviously there are so many opportunities now
Mm.
to have a shop on your website, but Etsy's convenient. It's a platform that's already there and created. You can link it to your website, so it makes it relatively easy.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And what advice would you give for a maker or artist who is thinking about starting their own shop?
I would say, research the platform, really take a look at the terms, the search terms that people are using to find those things, to make sure that your products are listed effectively so people can easily find you. You want to have a clean, crisp look and feel so that the products stand out. You don't want it to be cluttered or too noisy or have too many distractions. Monitor your price structure. You do not want to shortchange yourself. If you feel that your time and your energy in creating something is valuable, then you need to be
Mhm.
reimbursed for that time, not just for the product or the supplies that you use for that. And I think that's really important, because I think a lot of people devalue their time and their creative energy that has inspired what they've created. And then
Mhm.
I would say, make sure that you're using the key phrases of whatever your product is, and make sure that you're putting blog posts about that. You have it represented on your website so that it helps drive traffic to the Etsy shop as well as your website. And then use social media as a resource.
Mhm. Oh, so many good tips there. And I think that's a great point that makers especially tend to devalue their products because they don't factor in the time that they took, like all the time. And if you value your time, you definitely have to put a price tag on that. What do you wish somebody would have told you before you started a business?
So many things. But the number one thing that I would say is to be the face of your brand. Because unless people can get to know you, like you, and trust you, they're not going to hire you. And I spent many, many years hiding behind my camera and thought as long as I was posting pretty pictures, that's all people needed to see or know about me. But the reality was, once I started putting myself out there as my brand, my business soared, because more people got to know who I was and what my personality was, and that they would feel comfortable and confident and relaxed working with me.
That's so good. And do you have any tips for being the face of your brand?
So I kind of hinted on this a little bit, but having your face, your image in at least once in those 9 squares on Instagram, have the same profile picture consistently across the homepage of your website or the banner of your website, um, in your Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, all of those platforms. You want your face to be present so that no matter what platform people go to and look for you, they find you and can easily recognize you. I always am going to say you should have professional images.
Mm-hmm.
But if you cannot afford that because you have invested all of your money in creating the product that you're going to sell, consider using a good smartphone, right? And you can do this yourself, or you can have someone else do it. On my website is a tip sheet for smartphone photography for business. So people can download that for free. It's a great resource, but it'll give you insight on how to create good images so that they may not look 100% professional, but to the naked eye, they're going to look good enough that they're going to represent you professionally. But those are, I would say, are the key things, is that you want to be front and center on your website. I would represent yourself at least on the homepage and the about page, maybe on the contact page as well. And then the other pages of your website can be showcasing your products or your services. And then again, like on all of your social media platforms, have that profile picture.
Okay, awesome. What is the one thing you'd love to have help with?
I am not great about those little tasks that are real detail oriented. I'm more of a big picture girl. I come up with a lot of ideas. So I need someone to help me with the behind the scenes nitty gritty to accomplish those things, like the tech stuff. I don't like the tech stuff, and setting up Zaps and doing this, that, and the other that are required in order for programs to run smoothly.
Oh gosh, you and me both. I think the creative types are not great at the little tiny details that are so necessary. Yes, I hear you with that. Big picture strategy. Yeah, I love coming up with ideas as well. I think a lot of our listeners will relate to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what are your top tips for people who want to get started with their own business?
Oh, top tips. The number one thing is going to be to identify your niche, because it's so much easier if you can identify your niche and then pinpoint your ideal audience, because then you're speaking to the people that you want to work with or you want to sell to, versus having headaches because the wrong people are flocking to you because they've misunderstood your messaging.
That's good. Yeah.
And then again, to be the face of your brand, I think that's so very important. Invest in a good website. You can do a website yourself, but if you really want to have an effective website and that one that is aesthetically pleasing, but also an SEO powerhouse, hire a website designer. It's an investment that's going to give you return on investment and not be a waste of time or money. And then I would say, if there are tasks that you do not like or that take you way longer to do than they probably should, hire someone to do that. There are so many virtual assistants out there. Use them, tap into those resources, because otherwise you will just burn out.
Mm-hmm. And then you won't enjoy it as much either.
Exactly.
I find that those tasks that I don't enjoy take me forever to do. If I would have just outsourced them, I would have saved myself a lot of headache, and then I would have loved my business way more.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important to know what your strengths and where to outsource, because your time is valuable, for sure.
Time is so valuable. And if you are, a creative or someone who is producing a product or even in a service industry, your time is so valuable. And the only way you're going to make money is if you're doing those things that are going to make money. And if you're doing all these other things and they're sucking the time away from what you need to be doing to create, then you're not going to have as much success.
Yeah, for sure. I know that's the one thing I hear from business people, entrepreneurs, is the overwhelm and the number of things you have to take care of. It's just overwhelming. It's daunting.
Yeah.
So hiring out is key, and sort of building that team early on is great. And you're also a mom. So what would you say to moms out there who want to run their business and want to balance mom life and running a business?
I became an entrepreneur because I wanted to be present for my kids. And I thought that was going to be the easiest way to do that. But it's really not. And I think you have to, if you're going to jump into entrepreneurship, you have to be willing to set boundaries for yourself. You have to say no to those things that are not going to be beneficial to you, are not going to fuel you, and are not going to provide balance within your life, because we're split. We're trying to run this business, and that almost becomes a child to us. And when we really want that to be successful, and then we need to be the mom that we want to be to our kids. So you really have to set boundaries and say no to those things that are not going to fuel you or produce results for you. The other thing is, again, hire help for those tasks that you don't have to be doing, that someone else can do for less money for the time, so that you can then take that time, get your work done, and then have additional time to focus on your children. And then, I always say that you have to do self-care first and foremost, because if you don't take care of yourself and get the rest you need and give yourself the grace to have an hour or two a week, at least 15 minutes a day to yourself to refuel and exercise and take care of your body and your mind, then you're not going to be a good mom. So you have to take care of yourself first before you can actually manage both the business and the family.
Oh, such great tips. Yeah. Self-care is so high on my priority list, because if you're not happy and you're not taking time for yourself, then you're not going to be a good mom, you're not going to be a good business person, and then you're going to just end up hurting yourself for sure. And
Yes.
Boundaries are so key, and it's very difficult because we have our phones and we have technology, so we could constantly be looking at our business and not being present for our kids. So it's important to make sure that we're focusing on one thing at a time and setting boundaries. So if you have certain office hours, you're not taking calls in night and taking orders at night or whatever it is you're doing when your kids are with you. So I think that it's key.
And automation is a big key too. If there's anything that you can do that is, you can set up processes that are automated so that they do things on their own behind the scenes, and you don't have to do step-by-step things in order to sell a product or sell a service, then that's key.
That's really good. For sure. I know that you're great at automation. I've seen a lot of your processes. Like, oh, that's a really good idea.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's really helped me. And I can tell you, if you haven't read E-Myth Revisited, that is a book that your listeners should all pick up and read, because
Okay.
Michael Gerber is the name of the author, but it's E-Myth Revisited. And it is an incredible book that really inspired me to create the processes, because if you think about it, especially as a mom, there could be a day where you cannot be in the office because the kids are sick, but you have an employee. That employee needs to be able to follow every single process or step that you would normally do.
Right.
So the book is great about helping you map out those systems and processes that you need in your business to automate, and then also have in place for your employees or your assistant or whoever to then be able to take over for you if you can't be there.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to get that book then. What kind of advice would you give to people who want to do their own photography if they have, don't have the budget to hire a photographer to do their own photography for their products and their business?
Light. The most important thing is light. And I mentioned earlier my free ebook on smartphone photography for businesses. And in that document, I actually map out how you can use things as simple as like a piece of mat board, like a white mat board, so that you can set that up and it looks like a crisp, clean background. That's what you want for a product. You want to showcase products in different ways. So you want to use different angles. You can use, in that ebook, I go through like using side lighting versus backlighting versus front lighting, and all of the pros and cons to all of those things and how to look for that. But some of the most simple things you can do is you can purchase a ring light and use the ring light for extra light if you don't have a window source, but you 100% have to have good light. If you're going to use natural light, use a window, but you just have to be really cautious too about shadows. You can have shadows. Shadows are actually good for showing dimension, but you don't want to have shadows that are causing things to not show up in the image. And you don't want to have a super highlighted part and a super dark part, because then people won't see the detail of the product. So, but I would highly encourage anyone listening to download that, because there are some really great tips. And I literally walk you through step by step what you can do to create good product images if you can't afford a photographer.
Oh, great. Thank you. That's on your website then.
Yeah, it's under the resource
Perfect.
pages, which if you,
Awesome.
I think it's the brand marketing strategy tab. If you go, you hover on that tab and the menu item, and then the resources page will pop up as a menu item.
Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you so much for all of your time. I really appreciate your wisdom. And I think our listeners would find this so inspiring to see how you've created a business from just a basic hobby, and then you've grown it into so many different legs. So thank you once again. And can you tell our people how to find you and your products, and if you have any promotions that you'd like to offer?
Sure. So basically everything is on my website. You can find me at the Robyn Graham. It's Robyn with a Y. So therobyngraham.com. And my strategy sessions are there. My Build a Brand program is there. And then I also have a WooCommerce site there. So in my shop, you can purchase time with me or any of my programs, and as well as access the Etsy shop. And As far as finding me on social media, I am the Robyn Graham everywhere. So it's the same as my website. And I would enjoy anybody reaching out to connect. Feel free to ask me questions. And then if you go to my website, under the brand marketing strategy, there is a resource page. And that resource page has a lot of free documents, free ebooks, free whatever you want to call them. And they will give you some great insight on not only how to capture images for your business that look professional, even if they're used or taken by the cell phone, but there are ways to help you brand yourself and so on and so forth. So that's a great place to start as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is super.
Thank you, Nicole. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for listening to the Productpreneur Podcast. If you love this episode, we'd be so grateful if you could take a sec to subscribe, share it, and review it on Apple Podcasts. Your review will help more women build their own dream product business. By the way, if you have any feedback, comments, or questions, email me at info@nicoledelarzac.com. Until next time, keep dreaming up those product ideas.